Nora, hi, we're here at Jerpoint Abbey today, and we're here to examine this homestone which is in the storeroom here. Can you tell me a little bit about it? What is it? How do we know how to read it, and the kind of background of it?
Okay, well, Ogham is a writing system or a script, which is very unlike the Latin alphabet that we would use today. Well, first of all, as you can see on the stone here, it's just lines, and longer lines and shorter lines, and instead of writing from left to right as we would horizontally, with Ogham it's vertical, so instead of reading across you actually start at the bottom generally and read upwards. Also the Ogham scores or lines are positioned on the stem line, which is actually the angle of the stone, so it actually uses the angle of the stone as the stem line. We know how to read it because we have an Ogham key in some of our early manuscripts. For example, the Book of Ballymote has a key to Ogham. But we also know because of Ogham inscriptions on stone in Wales, where we have bilingual. So you have the Ogham script just like here on the angle, and then you would have the Latin script with the same name on the face. So that is also confirmed for us.
Okay. And the script is much different to the alphabet that we have today, like you say, but we do see the vowel forms and the consonant forms, and we can tell the difference between those.
Yes. Basically, consonants are longer lines generally that are positioned relative to a stem line. So some will be going to the right, others will be going to the left. And this is what makes Ogham really a 3D script, in that it wraps around the edge of the stone. Some of the consonants will be at an angle, and you will have 1 to 5 lines in groups like that, and that's how you can distinguish them. The vowels then are very different because they are generally shorter and they are right on the angle. So you'll have 1 to 5 notches on the angle for the vowels. So for example, 1 notch is an A, 2 is an O, 3 is a U, and so on. Okay.
And then when it comes to what was written on the stones, they're generally family names or the names of people or tribes.
Yeah, they're names of people at the time. They date from, I should mention that all of these are dated linguistically only. We don't have any archaeological evidence to date them. So they're dated approximately on linguistic evidence. So they appear to date from between the 5th and the 7th century generally. And at that time, it's the earliest writing we have in Ireland. It's the earliest Irish. It's all in Irish. You have a few Latin names occurring there, but it's in Irish. And they're names of people. And the first name is always in the genitive case, so it's a possessive, so it means of the person, of Cormac or whatever. So stone of, inscription of, possibly even territory of. It may be that they were marking territory. We don't know for sure, although quite a few of them are found on boundaries. This one in particular was found right on the bank of a stream just north of Thomastown, and that stream is the boundary of the parish boundary and also the townland boundary. So just to know that. And they're all names. Sometimes you just get a single name, which is very hard then to identify, but sometimes you do get a family name and group names. Like for example, you have the Mokoy Logedias here, which could be the Kirka Loida.
Okay, and with those family names, can we trace those families? So can we find those people again?
Yes, some of those family names, or kin group names I should say, are identifiable in our early genealogies, for example, in the annals, early records that we have from manuscripts. I suppose the most well-known would be the Kirkagina on the Dingle Peninsula, and you have stones, quite a few stones with the Mokoy Dividias, which is the early equivalent of later Kirkagina.
Okay, and this particular stone here, what's the inscription on this?
This one, it starts down here, and it starts with VED up along, and it reads, the first name, Bedelamento, is Phelim or Phelemi, so it's of Phelim, descendant of, and then it could be something like Lloyd, and then on this side, on the very back, it reads up along here again, it starts with Abbey, which is grandson or descendant of, again, and then we have the name, what was it again? Municona.
Okay. So it's quite a long lineage that the stone is representing here.
Yes, this is quite a long inscription. Very often you might just have one angle or maybe two angles. This one actually has three angles, and unfortunately you can't see the third angle very well there because it goes in behind the stone.
And this is quite a good example of an Ogham stone that we often would find them quite worn away or quite fragmentary as well.
Exactly, yes. We were commenting on this a few minutes ago that this is exceptionally clear. There's not a single letter that we're not sure of. It's a really clear inscription, which is extremely unusual.
When it comes to somebody using Ogham in modern day Irish to spell their name, I assume it can't fully be translated forward to the way we speak Irish today.
Well, originally there were only 20 Ogham characters representing the sounds of this very earliest Irish that we have record of in Ireland. So if you want to write your name in Ogham, well, first of all, you should really try to do it in Irish. So if you have an Irish version of your name, because it was designed for the sounds of the Irish language, so it doesn't really work very well
with the English language.
Exactly, yes.
And the stones that we're going to look at today in this little series are all around Thomas Chain. They're kind of like spread out in a little different area. Like I said, this one wasn't quite found here at Jerpoint, but it is within this wider area. Is there anything to say that maybe those Oghams are being carved by the same kin group or by a local kind of grouping of tribes?
It's hard to say. There's nothing definite in the actual inscriptions themselves that can link them. But Ogham stones in general do tend to appear in kind of clusters, in locations in clusters around the country. So, you know, it does happen, but it's hard to say how related they are. I mean, unlike the ones in Kilkenny, for example, where if you have Mucoid Divinius on a few stones, you know that they're from the same kin group, whereas these ones, well, this one is long and you've got quite a bit of information, but the other two less so. I mean, the first name is pretty clear, but after that we're not sure, so it's very hard to say anything for definite.
Okay, so we'll go and we'll have a look at some of the other Oghams then.
Great.